Hi everyone, I hope you're having a really good day. So far I am doing pretty well. It's a nice day. Actually, ambient temperature in my car read 61. Yay! It should have been that temperature Saturday, but it wasn't. I digress. If you're new and visiting for the first time, my name is Judy. Don't forget the subscribe button. Sounding Swedish there for a second. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Become a member of the squad. Leave comments, say hi. You can always drop me an email. I'll respond to every comment and email that I actually see. And I apologize to anyone who's not received any sort of response. Sometimes I don't get a notification that there's been a message unless I go into the inner workings and I scroll through and then I see that a message has come through. Then I do respond. So forgive me. So today I thought I would do a little reading from a book or an autobiography, true story, let's put it that way, from Mark Twain, and it's The Innocents Abroad, or The New Pilgrim's Progress, and it's from 1869. Mark Twain. I'm just going to blame it on the stuff I have to take for my back that I can't talk anymore. Mark Twain, Samuel Longhorn Clemens, was well-traveled. Actually, his contemporary, Charles Dickens, was also well-traveled. Charles Dickens also wrote about traveling. He has a book about traveling in the United States. What did he think of us? Not much. Actually, he has a brother. Is it his brother or half-brother? Well, he's buried in Illinois. There you go. So chapter 13 from this New Pilgrim's Progress, or The Innocents Abroad. It's about a place that's in the news quite often. So I will try to read this because it's very interesting. It's a very interesting perspective. Remember, this is 1869. So that is 100, don't tell me, 140, almost 49 years ago? Yeah, 149 years ago, I do believe. Let me think. If you're born in 69, you would be turning 49 this year. So yeah, 149 years ago. Did I get that right? Okay, whatever. Almost 150 years ago. Chapter 13. A fast walker could go outside the walls of Jerusalem and walk entirely around the city in an hour. I do not know how else to make one understand how small it is. Now, as aside from Judy, yes, it is a very small city, the actual walled city of Jerusalem. The appearance of the city is peculiar. Gosh, what is wrong with me? It is as knobby with countless little domes as a prison door is with bolt heads. Every house has from 1 to half a dozen of these white plastered domes of stone, broad and low, sitting in the center of or in a cluster upon the flat roof. Wherefore, when one looks down from eminence upon the compact mass of houses so closely crowded together, in fact, there is no appearance of streets at all, and so the city looks solid. He sees the knobbiest town in the world, except Constantinople. It looks as if it might be roofed from center to circumference with inverted saucers. As you can imagine, the little domes. The monotony of the view is interrupted only by the great Mosque of Omar, the Tower of Hippicus, and one or two other buildings that rise into commanding prominence. The houses are generally 2 stories high, built strongly of masonry, whitewashed or plastered outside, and have a cage of wooden latticework projecting in front of every window. To reproduce a Jerusalem street, it would only be necessary to upend a chicken coop and hang it before each window in an alley of American houses. The streets are roughly and badly paved with stone, and are tolerably crooked, enough so to make each street appear too close together constantly, and come to an end about 100 yards ahead of a pilgrim, as long as he chooses to walk in it. Projecting from the top of the lower story of many of the houses is a very narrow porch roof or shed, with supports from below. I have several times seen cats jump across the street from one shed to the other when they were out calling. The cats could have jumped double the distance without extraordinary exertion. I mention these things to give an idea of how narrow the streets are. Since a cat can jump across them without the least inconvenience, it is hardly necessary to state that such streets are too narrow for carriages. These vehicles cannot navigate the holy city. Now, Israel still is filled with cats. And cats are actually not mentioned in the Bible. Dogs are. So here we go. The population of Jerusalem is composed of Muslims, Jews, Greeks, Latins, Armenians, Syrians, Copts, Abyssinians, Greek Catholics, and a handful of Protestants. 100 of the latter sect are all that dwell now in this birthplace of Christianity. The nice shades of nationality comprised in the above list, and the languages spoken by them, are altogether too numerous to mention. It seems to me that all the races and colors and tongues of the earth must be represented among the 14,000 souls that dwell in Jerusalem. 14,000 souls. 14,000 people. That's it. Dwelling in Jerusalem at that time, 1869. Rags, wretchedness, poverty, and dirt, those signs and symbols that indicate the presence of Muslim rule, more surely than the crescent flag itself, abound. Lepers, cripples, the blind, and the idiotic assail you on every hand, and they know but one word of but one language, apparently the internal bucksheesh. To see the numbers of maimed, malformed, and diseased humanity that throng the holy places and obstruct the gates, one might suppose that the ancient days had come again, and that the angel of the Lord was expected to descend at any moment to stir the waters of Bethesda. Jerusalem is mournful and dreary and lifeless. I would not desire to live there. Let's see, where are we? I don't want to go too long. One naturally goes first to the Holy Sepulcher. It is right in the city, near the western gate, and it and the place of the crucifixion, and in fact every other place intimately connected with that tremendous event, are ingeniously massed together and covered by one roof, the dome of the Church of the Holy Sepulcher. Entering the building, through the midst of unusual assemblage of beggars, one sees on his left a few Turkish guards, for Christians of different sects will not only quarrel but fight, also in the sacred place, if allowed to do so. Before you is a marble slab which covers the stone of unction, whereon the Savior's body was laid to prepare for it for burial. I see my neurologist next month. Okay. It was found necessary to conceal the real stone in this way in order to save it from destruction. Pilgrims were too much given to chipping off pieces to carry it home. Nearby is a circular railing which marks the spot where the Virgin stood when the Lord's body was anointed. And he goes on just describing the church. If you've been there, he describes it exactly as it still is today. And it says all sects of Christians, except Protestants, have chapels under the roof of the church of the Holy Sepulcher. And each must keep to itself and not venture upon another's ground. This is still true to this day. 3. And he describes some more. He said, I don't want to read it all unless you are interested, but not everybody is. So yeah, he continues with his description of what's in the church of the Holy Sepulcher. And he says, but the relic that touched us the most was the plain old sword of that stout crusader, Godfrey of Boulogne, King Godfrey of Jerusalem. No blade in Christendom wields such enchantment as this. No blade of all that rust in the ancestral halls of Europe is able to invoke such visions of romance in the brain of him who looks upon it. None that can prate of such chivalric... Judy. Chivalric deeds or tell such brave tales of the warrior days of old. It stirs within a man every memory of the holy wars that has been sleeping in his brain for years, and it peoples his thoughts with mail-clad images, with marching armies, with battles, and with sieges. It speaks to him of Baldwin and Tancred, and the princely Saladin, and the great Richard of the Lion Heart. It was just with such blades as these that these splendid heroes of romance used to segregate a man, so to speak, and leave half of him to fall one way and the other half the other. This very sword had cloven hundreds of the Saracen knights from crown to chin in those old times when Godfrey wielded it. It was enchanted then by a genius that was under the command of King Solomon. When danger approached its master's tent, it always struck the shield and clanged out a fierce alarm upon the startled car of night. In times of doubt, or in fog of darkness, if it were drawn from its sheath, it would point instantly toward the foe, and thus reveal the way, and it would also attempt to start after them of its own accord. A Christian could not be A Christian could not be so disguised that it would not know him and refuse to hurt him, nor a Muslim so disguised that it would not leap from its scabbard and take his life. These statements are all well authenticated in many legends that are among the most trustworthy legends in the good old Catholic monks preserve. I can never forget old Godfrey's sword now. I tried it on a Muslim and clove him in twain like a donut. The spirit of Grimes was upon me, and if I had had a graveyard, I would have destroyed all the infidels in Jerusalem. I wiped the blood off the old sword and handed it back to the priest. I did not want the fresh gore to obliterate those sacred spots that crimsoned in brightness one day 600 years ago, and thus gave Godfrey warning that before the sun went down, his journey of life would end. So what do you think about what Mark Twain has to say about Jerusalem and the Church of the Holy Sepulcher and stuff like that? It's quite an interesting perspective from, as I said, nearly 150 years ago. Yeah, I'm not here to pass judgment on anybody or anything, but it's very, very, it's interesting to read an account from this land that we hear about in the voice of a great writer, and people don't think about who was in Jerusalem almost 150 years ago. As they said, he lists everybody who was there. You know, it was not very popular, 14,000 people, that's all, in the walled city. And he said, you know, Muslims, Jews, Greeks, Latins, Armenians, Syrians, Copts, Abyssinians, Greek Catholics, and that handful of Protestants. So keep in mind when you read things in the news. So I don't go political, but I really wanted to read part of that for you guys. So that is The Innocents Abroad, or New Pilgrim's Progress, just the chapter on Jerusalem, chapter 13 by Mark Twain. If you can get a copy of the full book, I suggest you do so. It's a fascinating read. He has such a way with words. And you can't take him out of his time. So never, ever try to take a writer out of his or her time, because you can't. You have to put your brain into what their time was like. Somebody accused Mark Twain of being a racist. Mark Twain, when he lived, I don't think he particularly was a racist. He was writing what he knew of. So leave comments below. Let me know. Have you read this book? Do you like Mark Twain? Do you like his writing? I like his writing. I find him very amusing. I said my father read everything he wrote, and all Dickens. And so I got to move through all Twain and all Dickens, because I said they were very, very interesting writers, and massive command of the English language. Alright, so that's it for today. I gotta go prepare for my big thing that I gotta do, and I will report back on how that goes. Be great to each other, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.